Hi and good evening, it's Gene from Avstar. Thank goodness us Brits have got gas powered power stations still, because if we didn't, tonight no one would have any lights on. There'd be no electricity being generated. As you can see, 58% is coming from fossil fuels, 14.9% other sources and 11 renewables. And here's the deal, they've been trying since 15 years ago or more to get net zero at 2030, so that we're not relying on any of the gas power plants or coal burning plants. And the best they can do today after 15 years is 11% renewables. Can you imagine what's going to happen in 6 years time when they're supposed to meet that target? I'll tell you what they've done is they drove the demand down. There was two ways they could stack this deal. You either produce more renewables so that you're not relying on fossil fuels, or you put the price up of electricity and you bring the demand down so you don't have to generate so much. But here we are generating 34.3% or 34.3 gigawatts, and we're having to borrow from the transfers, which is Belgium, Denmark and France at the moment, and the Netherlands and Norway. So we're buying electricity off of those at this very moment to meet the demands that we've got. And maybe we shouldn't have been so hasty in closing down the coal power stations, because let's face it, China is opening up a new coal power station every month. Listen, cheap energy means that your economy can do better than what it is right now. As soon as we start to raise the prices of energy, what happens is what we see in Europe now. Let's take Germany for instance. Volkswagen and Mercedes start cutting the shifts. So they'll cut the night shifts. That means they produce half the amount of the cars. Same with Mercedes. Manufacturing's being hit hardest because of the cost of energy. And these governments around the world, all of them, they're all bad as each other, aren't taking into consideration new business growth, seed business. How can you, let's say, open a shop when you've got to pay rent rates and the energy costs of running the shop before you even draw your profit? And you might have to pay staff as well. That's why most people that are self-employed at this moment are lucky if they take a wage out at the end of the month. I know what it's like to be self-employed. I've been self-employed a few times and I know exactly what it's like. And the amount of times that I've had to stay behind in the factory just to put everything away, and eat my tea in the factory on the night time, whilst the 5 guys that are working for me go home and they get paid, and they also expect a bonus at the end of the month or at the end of the week if you're paying them weekly, which I did do. I just thought it was, I'd do my best. I used to also pay for their lunch as well. I just thought it was a nice thing to do, being I was their boss. And, I used to do that. So come dinner time, I'd ask them all what they wanted. And at the time, my wife would go and fetch it for me. She'd meet up wherever we was working and go and get that for them. But, you can't afford to do it like that no more. And, of course, we see these people that run businesses like restaurants, demanding that the tips get shared also with the owners. Can you believe that? Because that's how hard up things are getting now. It's a shame. But, if we don't do nothing about it and we let it carry on, it won't get any better. If you do not take the drugs off the drug addict and you allow him to keep taking the drugs, he will not by any means give up on his own. And that's the same what we've got. We've got addicted people to corruption in our governments that will lie to us like we're seeing right now, that will lead us into a valley of death. We're in war, which is what's happening right now in Europe. Can you believe they're talking about a land invasion on Russia right now? They're discussing the possibilities of a first strike offensive, nuclear strike. That's what we're dealing with. It just fries my brain to think about all these things, what's going on and how much is wrong right now. Because there isn't just one thing that's wrong. There's a lot of things that are wrong. And some of them we can do something about and others we can't. And you'd think with the ones that we can't do something about, like the pole shift, like the climate change, and, you know, the disasters that are taking place. Like, I mean, we've got, can you believe, a 33% increase in volcanic activity this year. Or towards the end of this year. That's what's happening. Let's hope that this isn't a trend and that these volcanoes continue to erupt around the world. But this moment now, we have a 33% increase in volcanic eruptions. Not active, but these are actually erupting. We've got a magnetic pole migrating at speeds that it never has done before. And where's your mainstream media? Is it any wonder why people have turned to these social media platforms to get their information? It's because what they put out on the mainstream is propaganda, 100%. They never admit when they're in the wrong, and all they care about is waxing themselves rich on the expense of now pushing the middle class into the dirt. There has never been such a gap in wealth as there is today, guys. You can check for yourselves. You know, we are experiencing Edwardian poverty levels right now in the UK. And I guarantee that's the same for around Europe. But enough is enough. You know, we can't give up. Because if we just allow them to carry on, they won't know any wrong. They won't know what they're doing is wrong. And they certainly are not helping people. Our government here in the UK, and I don't mind embarrassing them and shaming them because they need to be shamed, they took the heating allowance off of the pensioners, off the people that have paid in all their lives to the system, and they go and hit them at the winter on the payments for the energy so that they can have a bit of warmth this time of the year round. You know, we are sick of this. Our pensions get robbed. I've had a couple of friends that have lost their pensions. It was just like, I'm sorry about your luck. You know, one of them lost £500,000, the other one £250,000 pension, and was planning on retiring within the next year or two. Can't do it now. They've got to carry on working. You know, and we hear about this a lot, don't we? You know, it's these people on Wall Street that are gambling away our future and our securities. And you've got, over in America, you've got the government working in conjunction with the Fed. And that's why there's no money in America. That's why people are suffering so much. It's because of the way the Fed is running things. And everyone agrees the Fed's got to go. I mean, look at what Joe Biden's doing. It's a disgrace. He is trying to take America to war before he leaves. He should be evicted out of the White House. Don't wait for him for the 20th of January. Evict him now before he sends you to a nuclear grave. Because he doesn't care. He's not going to be in power. And I bet you there'll be some backhanders coming his way for him and his family. And you know it as well as I do. That £5 billion he gifted to Ukraine. Well, I'm sorry. You know, the first thing Trump needs to do when he gets in office on the 20th of January is ring up Vladimir Zelensky and say, I'm sorry, but you will be paying that money back. Every single last dime of it, because it's taxpayers' money and we have a duty to use and, distribute that money on the benefit of the taxpayers. We have a duty to uphold that, So we'll be having that money back. And the same, why our government isn't doing that, I don't know. It's like they're using the money as though it's a private business. The taxpayer's purse is almost a private business now. And they don't care. They don't have to answer to anybody, and they certainly don't think or believe that they are public servants and trying to, work for our best interests, because what we see is them giving amnesty to, drug companies. I could mention the names and you know who they are. They have been given amnesty, so if they do harm people, they will not be prosecuted or put in a court of law and, punished accordingly for that crime, that injury that they've caused to that victim. When they start doing that, you know that they are more concerned in looking after corporations than they are the general public. And yet they are sworn in to look after and serve the general public. And what we see is them serving themselves time and time again. And, you know, when we stand up and we tell them, like, you know, this green policies and using renewables is a waste of time, well, no, they won't listen at all. You know, we've got 1,000 scientists, you know, all come to the conclusion that global warming is caused by CO2 and burning of fossil fuels, and it's human beings' fault. Get real. Have you noticed they don't go into the historical records of the grand solar minimum? Sorry, not the grand solar minimum, the grand glacial cycles and interglacial cycles. They don't go back to the Roman warm period, the medieval warm period, you know, and all the other warm periods that we've had where temperatures have been a lot warmer today than today, sorry. But they don't, you know, CO2 weren't rising then. Let me tell you, we do go through cycles. Let's just take the Milankovitch cycle, for instance. You know, it takes 100,000 years to get back into the glacial period of a Milankovitch cycle. And we're there already. We've already passed, you know, the line. And, you know, what you've got to understand is, okay, you're probably saying, well, Gene, there isn't ice everywhere, all over the Northern Hemisphere. Well, it's not going to happen like that. You know, we're talking a very large radius of our Earth. And therefore, it's a big inertia. You know, you're going to cool something down on the scale of that size, it's going to take a few years. And trust me, it will. It has never not, in the history of probably 1,000 interglacials that we've had and glacial periods. So it will continue to do it. It's just a matter of time. CO2 is a hoax. It's a con. It's a fraud. And these criminals that are pushing it are they've used it as a way to tax people. Look at COP29 the other day, the video I put out on that. People that live in India that are, you know, taking part of COP29 walked out. Why? Because the 1.3 trillion pounds wasn't put on the table there and then for them. We told them we're going to give you £500 billion now and the rest is going to come. But they sat around and said, oh, that's like a check in the post. It will never come. And they got upset about it and walked out and said it was a disgrace. I'll tell you what's a disgrace, is that you're expecting a small country, an island like ours, with 60 million population, it's a wonder it hasn't sunk, but you're expecting us to foot major part of that bill along with America and all the other European countries out of our taxpayers' money. That's absolutely disgraceful. This is the world we live in, guys. And on that note, I think I'll give you enough to think about. You know, if you want to help support us, again, another dismal day of support we've had, despite, you know, trying to, you know, educate people to this stuff. Links down there in the description if you want to support us. We're waiting. As always, bye for now.